So World of Warcraft: The War Within is bringing with it the most substantial account-wide update that World of Warcraft has ever gotten. Blizzard is billing this system as account-wide everything. So I want to go over all the details with this system because especially if you're somebody that plays a lot of Alt, this may be one of the most exciting systems added in the game's 20-year history. And the basis of the system is that every single character on your account is now added into a warband where they can share a bunch of different things. And I think the best place to start off is the new login screen. Now there's not a ton of functionality with this, but the presentation is actually a bit different. So after this expansion is released, there's going to be a new login screen. And at the top, you'll actually be able to add in a number of your different characters that will be displayed on your character selection screen, kind of huddled around a campfire. Almost something reminiscent of like the character selection of a Diablo game. So you'll be able to add 4 or 5 of any of your different characters. They'll have their different transmog on and they'll be in a different environment. We don't know if there's going to be different unlockable environments where your characters are camped at. I presume they will add that as a new reward type in the game. That's something that everyone will basically want, being able to choose different backgrounds that your characters are camped in, which I do think would be a pretty interesting new reward type added into the game. And speaking of character selection, there's actually a pretty substantial change in how that works as well. So instead of going in and choosing what server you want to see a character list for, all of your characters are going to be in the same list, but it's just going to detail what server they're on and what faction that character is in. So you're not going to be going in and choosing what server you actually want to go to. All of your characters are going to be right there in the same list. But that's just the start because the new account-wide systems that being added with this are pretty substantial. And the first one being a new Warband bank. So this is going to work in a very similar way to guild banks. It's just going to be for all of your different characters. And it's also going to be in the same tab with your normal bank. So they're not removing your character specific bank. They're just adding a separate tab for Warband banks. And it's going to work in the same way as the guild banks. You'll be able to buy a bunch of different tabs and customize them all. We don't know how expensive these tabs are going to be. Presumably they're just going to be some small gold amount and you can customize them like normal guild tabs, but also we don't know how many tabs you'll actually be able to have. And when you put anything in this Warband bank, you're able to just go to that Warband bank on any character and pull anything you're able to put in that bank out. So if you have a bind on account item, you put it in your Warband bank, any character across any realm on your account will be able to go there, go to their Warband bank and pull that out. You don't have to mail stuff to yourself anymore. And another really big functionality with this is that any reagents you put in your Warband bank will be able to be used by any of your Warband characters, but you'll be able to craft directly from that bank on every character. So anytime you go out and get different materials, get different resources, go put them in your Warband bank and you'll just be able to craft on every character on your account. This will save so much time, especially if you play a ton of different alts and you're just gaining random materials on all those different alts instead of having to split them all up and send all your herbs to your alchemist and send all of your ore to your blacksmith. Now you just put it all in one place and all of your crafters get to craft from it. That's easily one of the biggest changes with this. But a new item type you'll be able to put in your Warband banks is the thing I'm most excited for with this system, and these are called Warbound items. So basically how this works is there are going to be some gear pieces that are going to be Warbound until equipped. And with these items, you'll be able to put them in your Warbound bank and you'll be able to take them out on a different alt. And once you equip them, they're now soulbound to that alt. But this is going to be a way to help gear up your alt a bit. And how you're actually going to be getting these items is basically a secondary personal loot roll from doing any endgame content it sounded like. So if you go complete a mythic dungeon, you may just randomly get a lower item level piece that you can go equip on another character that will then make that item soulbound. Now these warbound items will always drop at a lower item level than the content you're currently completing. So if you're doing like a plus 20 mythic dungeon, you're not going to be getting a warbound item that's that item level. It'll most likely be significantly lower, but this will basically be a way to always be earning gear tokens for all of your different alts. And this may also mean the Blizzard will be much less dependent on adding in new systems to add in catch-up gear because you'll always just be getting warbound gear to help catch up all of your alt all times. Now we're also not exactly sure on what these items are actually going to be. Are these going to be a completely different set of items, or are they going to be much lower item level versions of the gear from that content? Could you go kill one of the new raid bosses that drops a really good trinket? And could you get a warbound version of that trinket so it would be much lower item level, but it would still be that trinket? That would actually be much more exciting, but I do think they're probably not going to go about it that way. In my mind, it'll probably be its own set of items. So warbound items will have their own trinkets, their own weapons, their own armor, as to not allow some weird farming of trying to get all your characters to farm one boss to get some really OP trinket that would still be worthwhile using on your main, even at a much lower item level. But I do think it's really exciting that you'll just randomly be getting these, and you may get like a new two-handed weapon or a new really good trinket for a specific class or spec, so that may make you want to go start playing that alt. This is easily the thing I'm most excited for with Warbands. And then there's also just an extensive list of other things that are going to be account wide and Warband specific now. And one of the bigger ones being transmog. So if you're, say, on a plate character and you go run an old raid, any gear you get now is just going to be added to your transmog collection. If you get cloth items, you will still have that added into your collection, even though that character wouldn't be able to unlock that transmog normally. Now, you're not going to be able to go transmog in all cloth gear as a plate wearer, but you'll be able to earn all of that stuff. So if you have a main character that's super well geared and you can go solo the most recent expansions raids, you would only be able to get items that that character could wear. You'd only be able to get their tier set. But now you go complete that raid on that character and you'll just be unlocking tons of transmog appearances from every boss. You'll be able to earn all the different armor types for all of your alts, making transmog collection infinitely easier. Then you'll also have things like flight paths added to Warbands. Not that important anymore because you can just fly everywhere with dragon riding or dynamic flying. They're changing up achievements quite a bit to where before some achievements were account wide, but most of them weren't. Now it's going to be most achievements are account wide and only some are character specific. And then even things like delves, which we went over in a previous video. So in delves, you'll have an NPC that accompanies you. First season will be Bran Bronzebeard, and they'll have their own talent tree. So as you progress throughout delves, you'll be filling out their talent tree. But say then after you complete their full talent tree, you go on an alt, you don't want to have to re-earn that talent tree on a new character. Stuff like that will also now be account wide. So you complete their skill tree once, you have it on all of your alts. And that leaves out reputation, because this one's going to be a little bit different. So starting in the War Within, all renown rewards are just going to be Warband wide. So if you get a renown to level 10, all of your characters have a renown 10. You got a new character, you can progress renown. Now for all other expansions, they're going to be working on making all reputations account wide as well. And they're going to be starting with Dragonflight after the War Within, and they're going to be working backwards. So at some point in the future, all of the expansions reputations are all going to be account wide. They're all going to be tied to your Warband. This is just something that's going to require more time, but at some point, every reputation in the game is going to be account wide. Now, this is just all of the different things tied into Warbands that was specifically mentioned. They did say that there's going to be more stuff added into this as well. One of the main things I've been seeing is once you unlock the portals for Mythic Plus to teleport you to the entrances, that should also be account wide. You unlock those portals on one character, you should have them on all characters. That is definitely something that should be added into Warbands. There's probably a bunch of other different stuff that should also be added in, but we'll have to wait to see what other things in the game are added into the system. But this is a massive leap forward to having basically everything besides character leveling and gearing being account wide, which as somebody that plays a lot of alts, this is one of the biggest announcements in the game's history. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.